Welcome to the Revival Centres Church podcast. Hi, this is Jeff. We're the Revival Centres Church, a worldwide fellowship of Christian believers. We've each had our own direct personal experience of the living God. In this episode, Pastor Victor and Pastor Sylvio speak about our expanding work in Africa. The work is supported by these two and many others: Pastor John in Bellarine, Gilbert and Phil in Melbourne, Pastor David from New Zealand, and so many others. So many that I wish I hadn't started listing them, because I've now left so many off. God knows your work. And to the rest of us who support financially, God knows. Here's Pastor Victor and Pastor Sylvio.
Thank you very much, Pastor Simon. I'd like to thank you all for contributing to a work called the Mission Fund. And we want to spend just a few minutes telling you what that helps to support. And it really is quite wonderful. And your contributions are extremely helpful. And the growth in the work there has got a lot to do with the fact that you contribute to it. It wouldn't happen otherwise. The logistics, the distances, the needs are quite incredible. We have a need probably just with the mission area the mission situation in that area of some pretty close to $300,000 a year. I know. And believe it or not, it comes from you guys, and we do have it. Your support enables this to just continue and to grow, and we want to spend a little bit of time just telling you the growth and what is happening. We've got over 60,000 spirit-filled people there. And I just invite now Pastor Sylvio to just speak about the northern area of Africa and what is happening there, and I might take over and speak about the middle, Central Africa and Southern Africa and what is happening there. Thanks, Pastor Sylvio.
Thank you, Pastor Victor. I'm sure that I'm speaking on behalf of Pastor Victor when I tell you that we're very humbled and extremely fortunate and blessed to be servants to the work of the real pastors of Africa, which are our pastors, 739 of them. And we see ourselves as servants of their joy, helpers of their joy. We're not their bosses. I know that Pastor Victor doesn't see himself as the boss of anyone in Africa, and neither do I. But we are their servants. And in Western Africa, my boss is saying something. Hang on.
Carol is my boss. I've got to say that because if I go home and I didn't say that, I don't eat. Don't laugh, it's true.
Look, there's a lot going on in Africa. And the reason it's going on, especially in Uganda of late, about 8 years ago, nearly 9 years ago, Pastor John came along in West Africa, and Pastor Victor visited, then I visited, and the work grew, and there's a couple of thousand people there. But recently, the work is growing because of the gospel that we preach, which is the gospel of Jesus Christ. Other pastors are hearing that we don't budge, we don't fudge, we don't compromise on the word, and they're asking us, can we join your meetings? And we have several pastors, apart from the people you saw today, we have a lot of other pastors coming out of the Pentecostal world, and they're loving the message that you take for granted every week. And for them, it's something wonderful. We've had pastors coming out of Eastern Uganda. A fellow called me up and he said, look, I'm not a pastor. This is how humble he was. He says, but I've been spirit-filled, and suddenly I find myself with one church, two churches, three churches, And I've got to a point where I've looked it up and I've found you guys, and I just want to make sure that I'm preaching the truth, and I can see that you guys are doing that. And he's been joining us now for over a year and a half, and we've got another pastor in Uganda. We've got work going on in Tanzania, which is now 2 works, and in Zambia, we've got 3 different pastors who join us regularly for the same reasons I just spoke about. This gospel that we sow, we don't realise how blessed we are, because you get baptised, you come here, you hear the gifts. There are 1,000 people here that could to teach you, and you could talk to in fellowship. You quickly get the gist of things, but over there, they're really operating on faith, because they don't have the example that we have. So keep them in your prayers. And we've got recently in Burundi, we've got a couple of pastors there that have been joining us for the last 3 years, coming to our pastors' conferences. They're very excited. And this is all supported by you. Now we've got Pastor James going back to Rwanda, and down in South Africa in Cape Town, we've got a very small work starting up there, and it's a very tough place because they're like us. They're caught up in materialism, but we've got a few faithful people going on. So I've mentioned Tanzania, Western Uganda, Eastern Uganda, and Central Uganda. We've got Zambia. We've got a couple of works in Zambia, Burundi, and we've got to Rwanda. So this is all part of what started here. And what started here started 2,000 years ago. And I'll let Pastor Victor talk about the other fellowships there, and he'll give you some rundown on numbers.
Yeah, thanks very much. We take things so much for granted, and when we talk about we don't know what's happening tomorrow, and God's given us a wonderful ability to be able to strengthen ourselves, that no matter what happens in our lives tomorrow, we're going to be able to handle it. And we say that under the guise that we have a medical system, we have a superannuation system, we've got unemployment benefits. You can go on and on in our wonderful country here. And of course, in those parts of Africa, there's just none of that. You've got no unemployment benefits, you've got no health benefits, you've got no schooling benefits. There's just no benefits in the sense, and what they've got to do is spend every day just trying to get some food together. It's very difficult, it's very poor, it's very neglected in many, many ways. But it's not only what you guys are doing and so forth, there's also individuals in the sense of their fellowship that have been extremely helpful. Pastor Johnny and Sue and the fellowship in Bellarine have been incredibly helpful. And I've got a little screen here that Pastor John has given me, and I can read out what is actually happening there relating to supporting them with nutrition and benefits like that. And I'll read what Pastor Johnny has written. We have at present 20 plantations in Malawi, from far northern to the southern areas, plantations ranging from the size of 1 acre to 5 acres. And this year we've seen floods in many areas of our fellowship, and it destroys crops and makes it very difficult. Most plantations are growing moringa around the perimeters, and pigeon pea in the middle, and sorghum and cassava. All indigenous pigeon pea is good for the soil and is able to survive very, very harsh conditions. Like moringa, not like maize, which needs fertiliser, which is very expensive and dries up. And what that really means is that they can plant the moringa tree, which is an incredible health food, and they can plant pigeon pea, and the pigeon pea actually helps to fertilise the soil and doesn't need fertiliser, which means that, as you know in the news, the cost of fertiliser is becoming incredible. but to switch over to Pigeon Pea that Pastor Johnny has introduced and is so helpful to them in their nutrition. Pastor Johnny goes on to say that they're helping develop fertiliser programs with cow manure. I know you really want to know this stuff, I know. But with cow manure and very other biodynamics. They've dug wells, also encourage people to plant moringa in pots, and they're looking forward to buying more land. Also building drying sheds and other moringa supplies like grinders and so forth, and other equipment to help in the production and grinding of moringa so that it's able to be spread on their food and ingested that way, because eating it by itself is not very pleasant. So moringa there is, as people say, God's miracle tree supplying every vitamin and mineral in all its complexities. Also is able to clean water and kill cholera and make my wife love me. What? Did I say that? Okay. I wish.
You said that out
loud. Yeah, okay. Thank you about that. It also cleans, get this, it also cleans the atmosphere 30% better than any other tree. And Pastor John says, not bad, eh? Are you here, Pastor John? Where are you? He's in bed. Okay. All right. All right. And to think of it this way, to buy moringa in Malawi or here actually costs $100 per 100 grams. So if you want to go to your pharmacy and buy this, which is an incredible food supplement. Now, what Pastor Johnny has done and the Bellarine folk is actually planted these plantations, and they're harvested, grounded and supplied to the people free, where they sprinkle on their food, and it really supports their health. And we just rejoice in that. And all the people said. So, look, we've got over 700 fellowships, which is incredible. We support not much more than 50 pastors in and through the Mission Fund to help them in the ministry, and that helps them to travel distances to be able to minister to the folk around about. Also, as I said, we've got over 60,000 Spirit-filled people, and we're having a pastors get-together, which we do every year, to get them together, to spend time with them, encouraging them, as you've heard today, the wonderful gift that God has given us, and not to be careless and to use it, and the supplement, if you like, of the wonderful Holy Spirit. It strengthens us to really be able to handle our tomorrows. And it's what we sow is what we reap. And we've been given this wonderful ability to be able to go out and preach the gospel. And we have these pastors' meetings, which when we get together, and to bring them all together, costs around $120,000 to do all this, which is an incredible amount of money. I'm sort of not saying 120,000 in one session, but it's so expensive to bring them all together. We bring together about 600 pastors and have to feed them and transport them and whatever. And so your support is just incredible. And look, thank you so much for it. To be able to provide that enables this wonderful growth that we're seeing in spreading that gospel. Amen? Thank you so much.
Just one thing. We have a pastors' meeting every 2 weeks with the guys in Africa. And in that pastors' meeting, we have other observer pastors, observer status there. But we would be, on an average Saturday afternoon every 2 weeks, we might have anywhere between 12 and 30 of these guys join us. Most of the times they're all huddled around a small little phone, and there's maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of them around a tiny little screen. But we have a vast amount of pastors that cannot join because they don't have a smartphone. We've had a wonderful brother just come and speak to me and saying he's happy to support that and get us, and we can get some phones, but we need a lot more because we've got 739 assemblies. We would love them to have the capacity to join because it connects the whole of Africa in one meeting. It's not just Malawi, there's Uganda, there's Congo, there's Zambia, there's Mozambique, there's Zimbabwe, there's South Africa, there's Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya. We've got a guy in Nigeria joining us. He's not a prince, don't worry. And, Liberia from time to time, different time zone. Just to give you a scope of Africa, we could fit Australia, the United States and Europe into Africa. And when Pastor Victor talks about the distances, on your little map it's completely wrong, because Africa doesn't look that big. But imagine a place the size that you could fit the United States, Australia and Europe into there, and maybe fit England and a few other places in there. And your support. So if you've got an old smartphone, let us know. We're going next month, and we'd love to take a bag full of smartphones with us. We'll pay the freight, the extra baggage, but everyone's got 1 or 2 or 3 smartphones, but that will help a pastor join our meetings. And they really love the meetings, and your support will help us. So reach out to Pastor Simon, Jeff Beggs, Pastor Victor, myself. We need your support on that, and that's also something you can do for Africa.
Thank you. Just to clarify, our pastors' conferences cost us about $50,000 to bring the folk together. Our relief that we have on standby, we need about $100,000, and our pastors' support generally through the year is about $120,000. So it's around $300,000, and thank you for your generosity. Thank you.
Be exalted, O God, above the heavens.
Thanks for listening. You can find out more about Revival Centres Church at our website, revivalcentres.org. See you next time.
Beyond the